Morning folks, so here we are at the back end of January, essentially still in winter time, but already I've got to start thinking ahead of myself. I know I've spoken about this before, but having a place like this means that you need to constantly be ahead of yourself, so I'm already thinking about spring. As many of you have been here before know, excuse me, the car park, everything from the kind of cabin up towards the top, it all slopes ever so slightly up that way. Well, my thoughts on the car park area, well, it's next to the car park area, is let me just spin you around this way. I don't know if you can see, but just in that side from the car park, we've got an area in there that I think could be put to good use. Now, we all have those friends who will say, right, I'll meet you at 10:30 and you'll get somewhere, and they turn up around 11:30, or you arrive at the same time or arrive together, and they're putting air in their forks or shock at 1 psi increments, and therefore spending forever in the car park before you actually get out to ride. Or the other ones who you get back to the car, have your sandwich or something, and they're having like an hour's lunch break. So the idea is just to provide somewhere next to the car park for entertainment, really. It was whilst sitting in the cabin last weekend, I had thought about this slightly prior, but kind of made the decision last weekend that there's room for a kind of hop and pop, almost pump tracky, but with some jumps in, but more in a pump track goes in a loop. This would be more in a ride downwards. I don't know if you can tell, but this section here is just on the pathway up to the top of the tracks. You can see around here there's this where you go around the corner and start to head up towards the tops of the tracks. So what I'm thinking is using the natural, it's only a very slight slope, but using a natural slope down. Obviously as you're pumping and bouncing through and taking off and landing and pumping again, you're gonna keep your speed down anyway. So right now, this morning, is have a quick look and see if there is a potential line through. The real quick and easy answer to is there a potential line through for sort of entertainment is yes. It's short, and you could put some little poppy features in there, and it runs down the length of the car park, comes out around here, brings you back into the car park again. It's a bit of a something to keep you entertained while you're waiting for your mate. One of today's other jobs is a bit of a stinker. It involves transporting all my build materials up to Electric Landlady and getting them started and trying to sort out what's there and what I need and what I've got to gather up. But first job is to transport them all up there. This is about as far as I'm getting with the car. Obviously these are 8-foot pallets. They are about 8 foot long, so it's just not feasible to wheelbarrow them or something like that. Well, you could, I suppose, but I've got a lot of movement up and down, so this is about as good as it gets, which is the top of magic bus for these ones, and we'll just keep going. Okay, so driving them there, it perhaps isn't the best idea. Got a very strong chance of catching a trailing arm on a linkage arm on a stump or something like that, or knocking an exhaust off, and it all become very expensive. So option number 2 is to strap these bad boys to a wheelbarrow and manual it up there. Okay, midway point. I've got to tell you, this part of the job sucks. The sun's come out a little bit now. So I know I was saying earlier that I had one eye on the spring. Well, that does mean that you've got to keep the other eye on the present, on right now. As with stage 1 of any build, you're kind of roughing things out. Stage 2 is gathering your materials and starting to have a look and see what's going on. So we're here starting to gather up some materials. I'm still just using tape at the moment for the idea of the landing, but we'll get you up here and have a look. So essentially this part is getting together what you've got and having a look and see how it's going to work. This one has got I had some spare pallets for the top of it. there's still a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot of figuring out to be done. That one's just some spare lumber, but on here, I'll get you in front of me, it's a bit easier. On here you can see that there's stretches but no crosses, so I need to figure out what I'm doing about the cross members as we get upwards towards it. The tape, I hope, kind of gives you an idea of roughly where the landing's going. Obviously branches and stuff are to be removed, but that's like down the line. But you know, at the end of the day, there's one more lot of materials to be brought up, and then the essential kind of pen and paper and tape measure, and I can start having a look at how I can put this together and trim it up and get it going and get that kind of Canadian build style going. Hopefully, now that we're getting a little bit further into this track, this qualifier stroke little sister ladder drop style jump is starting to make a bit more sense along the whole overall style of the track. This is the last load of timbers to take up to the build site. It's a long way up there. I'm pretty tired now and I think it's going to suck, so coffee time first. The one thing about gathering all your stuff up in one place, you know, in the build area to see what you've got, is it can also alert you to how little you've got as well. I'll show you, and you can see that there's enough to do like a very small part of it, and then I've got to do the rest. So as you can probably see here, there's enough to kind of, these ones are pallets anyway, but there's enough to do this kind of top end. There is odd bits of spare kicking around. We'll have to see how they fit in when I break those pallets apart. But essentially we've got to try and get this all the way up and all the way through so that we can have a rideable surface. Obviously all these jaggedy ends on each side get cut straight down as they're all like secured in, but essentially what we're looking for is this middle section to get filled. Really it's just a case of deciding how I fill this middle section in. There's a number of options to look at, and I'll have to put my thinking cap on, but it's always best to get everything on site and get jeez, it's still not over this cold. Get everything on site and get everything in one place so you can at least see what you're looking at. There's some shoring up of the structure itself that needs to be done, but I kind of already know about that, and I've got a couple of big thick pieces of timber at home that I can sturdy things in with. But I mean, the idea is for this to be a real good solid sized fly off, and you know, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to the build process of it as well. I'm just a bit tired at the end of today, but you know, this one's going to be a lot of fun. Anyway, that's update so far. Thanks very much for your time, and I'll see you soon.